Are you a hustler who's been looking for a podcast that dives into the minds of the relentless hustlers, the game changers, and the unapologetic leaders who've conquered the business world? This is Pushing the Bar, where success isn't just a destination, it's a journey. We'll get into the minds of the relentless hustlers. You're about to get the real and raw truth about the highs, lows, the good, the bad, and the ugly of the entrepreneurial battlefield. You know, the place where dreams clash with reality and success is earned, not given. Shawn has been in the trenches, from a Verizon wireless salesman to building a damn tech empire worth millions.
Damn!
He's seen it all and lived to tell the tale. No sugar-coated fluffy crap here. Just raw, real-world advice served straight up. We're pushing the bar because success, it ain't gonna push itself. Now, here's Shawn Torres.
Well, hey everybody, thanks for joining in for another episode of Pushing the Bar with Shawn Torres. I'm excited to be here. I got a really good friend of mine that we were in a peer group together for 2 years.
Yep.
2 years. So got to understand the inner workings of her business and how she operates as a pretty badass CEO. So I'm excited to introduce Tiffanie Hartenstein with Oracle Lighting, CEO, I guess kind of co-founder in a sense. Mm-hmm. So today what I really want to discuss is partnerships. I was at the gym and I had a guy come up to me and he's like, hey man, like I listened to your podcast and you should talk about partnerships, because he was talking about his sister-in-law and his brother own a business together.
Yeah.
And there's like a lot of dynamics, and we had already committed to doing this episode, and I was like, well, this is even awesome. Like, you know, this is a person that's coming in and her partner is her husband.
Yep.
So even better.
It's like the most frequent question that I get asked whenever I'm introducing myself and they realize your husband owns this company with you. It's always right away, what's that like? And then before I can even answer, they always follow up with like this own reflection that they've had of, oh, I could never do that. And they
it's been a long time too. It's been how long?
22 years.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's a long time for just business in general, right? More or less a partnership that adds other complexities. I mean, I know Jimmy and I are like work husband and wife too, and it like creates. I mean, it's hard.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean, because you guys are best friends. I mean, it's kind of.
It's very similar. You know, we live across the street from each other.
I know.
So it's close, and it's close dynamic.
Yeah.
So, but why don't you walk through, because I think it's awesome, the story of kind of how Justin started the business. Like, y'all were married, y'all were together. He started this thing as like a hobby, and then it evolved.
Yeah. So it started in college, so before we were married, and it was just a hobby. And then us just being two college kids, no money, it was just something he did on the side. And then after Hurricane Katrina was really when we were kind of forced into creating this hobby into something that was a moneymaker, because we had no money. We had to evacuate to Atlanta. We were actually out of town already for a car show, so we didn't have any time to like, go back home and like prepare for this hurricane that was coming. So it was just the two of us with like 2 or 3 pairs of clothes and our little dog at the time in college. I was 19, barely 20 yet at the time. And so we just started getting on different forums, and anywhere that he was already kind of just selling 1 or 2 of these custom headlights, and then we started like really having to push.
And this was really before like online was like a hot.
Yeah, it was, we weren't even, I don't think Facebook even, we weren't on Facebook yet. So
y'all were just
before that era. It
was
different forums where we were just posting, talking to people on there, and just showing pictures of what he was doing.
So was he building custom? So
he had his car, and he was just building stuff for his car, and people liked it. And so then he would build the same thing. It was only for the Lexus community at the time, so it was just one product that we had, and it was just, he'd build one, we'd get a little bit of money, then we'd build 2, and then we'd get a little bit more money, and so it was very, very small in the beginning. But we really were kind of forced into, we have to make some kind of income now to pay our rent. And so young, I mean, at the time, we didn't know what we were doing. We just knew we were making a little bit of money. Eventually, we all came back to the city and we got an office, and it was in our house, in our kitchen. I mean, I had no kitchen for the first few years.
And when did you go, so when did y'all make the decision that it was no longer going to be like Justin running this thing and you kind of helping as a wife to coming in and helping as a business partner?
I started and I was helping already, but when I really decided to make something of it was when we started actually making some money, and I realized I need to be in here to help support this because he was the one building the products, and so there had to be somebody to answer the phone for the customers and pay attention to the money and do all of the shipping and all of the things that needed to happen. I was doing all of that, and he was just building the product.
See, I think that's always fun about, I always think back to the beginning days of starting a company and like the experience you get with owning every single department. You know, I always tell my team all the time, like, hey, I've done accounting, I've done the technical install, I've done receivables, I've done payables, I've done shipping, receiving, you know, quote building, entering data, like the whole help desk, the whole 9 yards, you know. And I think that gives you a level of experience to operate a business in a different way. And I think that's what's really cool about your journey is that not only did y'all create it from the ground up, you know, you've also done the different jobs. It's not like you had this big investor just come in and say, here's all this money, go hire these people, do this, do that. I mean, I was in the same boat. Like I didn't know anything about business.
Yeah.
I
we didn't know.
True.
But it does help having experience in all of those different areas. Now, when I'm in a leadership position where I don't have to be the one that's shipping the product or answering the phone or doing those things, I still appreciate what those people are doing and what it takes to be able to be in those
do that
roles.
job.
Yeah.
And do you think it's interesting to see the difference in just the change, obviously at a smaller scale, that those jobs look different than at a larger scale? So did you ever went through a time where when you were looking at, like, I guess, operational overhead and the things that are going on, where it's like, do we really need to do it that way? Because we used to do it this way. But then that changes and you question, like, why does it operate this way?
I think every few years we go through that process of stepping back and saying, does this still make sense for us? And in the beginning, you know, you're piecing things together and just like you're growing. So at least for us, we grew so fast that we were just band-aiding everything just to make the next sale and go to the next thing because we didn't have it all figured out. You know, so we operated that way kind of chaotically for probably the first 7 or 8 years. And then we had grown to a point where I could say, okay, we need to be more strategic. I had brought in some consultants and took a step back to say, where do we need to now make long-term efficiencies and change processes and kind of...
So how big were you when you got structure in play?
I mean, we were probably at like 5 million at the time.
That's about where we were. 5 to 7, somewhere in that.
I felt like between that 5 to 7 mark, it was very critical point for us to do that because we were going to just grow into failure.
Right.
Like we were just going to grow so fast that all of a sudden it was just going to crumble and then it wasn't going to exist anymore. So we had to do that.
And then how do you make the decision on who?
Who to bring in to support?
No, like who
to hire?
Who to run? Who to be the boss?
Oh,
because at the end of the day,
me.
well, I think you look at a business, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's the biggest question I always get. My kids even ask me this. Like, Ava will look at me and say, "Dad, are you like Uncle Jimmy's boss?"
Oh, my kids.
And
do all the time
I'm
with
like,
us.
well, like, per structure,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Right? And I think me and Jimmy I think there was a natural yin and yang to our relationship, right? And I think there's a natural, of course, like, you and Justin are not, like, I think Justin could be a CEO. Like, you know,
he
he's a smart guy.
He was technically the CEO and I was the COO. I felt like at that point you're still so small, those titles don't even really mean anything.
That's true.
But we did operate that way. And then at that point when we were, I guess around like 7 million was when we made the switch, when we had some consultants come in and they looked at what we were doing and they were like, she's really needs to be the one running the business and he needs to focus on creating the product. Because that's what he's great at. I mean, the business wouldn't exist if he wasn't putting out all of these innovative products. So we needed to take him away from all those little nuances and have him focus on that. So that way we could start, I mean, that's really what makes the business.
That's what made it scale.
So then that's when I switched into the CEO position.
Got it. And that's when you started seeing real growth.
Yeah.
I mean,
It was me. Yeah. My kids ask me the same thing, though.
Well,
Mom, are you the boss or is Dad the boss? And he will always say, Mom's the boss.
Well, that's easy.
Yeah.
Right? So the dynamics, y'all, obviously you're in two different worlds in the company, but still on the back end, like, business brings stress, right? Ups and downs, good months, bad months, good years, bad years.
Yeah.
So, like, obviously, like, I've traveled with y'all. I think y'all have an incredible relationship. Like, you know, that dynamic obviously creates strain at home. So like, how do you manage through that?
That's a tough one. It generally is usually good. I mean, there'll be times at work where I'm super frustrated with him, and I'm like, oh man, when we get home, like, because we won't like argue in front of the employees or anything like that. And then when I get home, there's just a shift where it's not difficult. I don't know. It's like we can talk about it and things are just okay. I don't know. We have just like a good, like.
Has it been like that from day one, or did that take time to get to?
It took a little bit of time. Yeah.
Because Shannon worked at the company for a little while, and I'll tell you, like, it was the thing that bothered me the most about it was we would go home and like the whole conversation piece. I mean, obviously, you know, this company's a big part of our life. It is your life, right?
Yeah.
You go home and it's like, that's all we talk about. And like, it just turns into this like, never turn it off.
That's what it is for us. It is still that way. And I honestly, when I talk to other people who they don't work with their spouse, I'm like, what do you guys talk about at home? Like, is it boring? Like, I don't, like, for me, when we talk about business at home is when we, like, are coming up with the ideas, and that's when it's, like, exciting, is when we're working on it at home. So I don't feel that way of, like,
it's
I
hard
wish
to
we
turn
didn't
off.
have
Like,
that.
I've had a lot of people tell me, like, oh, you gotta disconnect, you gotta turn it off, you gotta do those things, but I find it a challenge to, like, I think that's the downside of being a business owner, entrepreneur, CEO is like, you don't really turn it off because it doesn't go away.
It doesn't go away.
You know?
I mean, it's one of your children. It's there when you go home. Like, it's there all the time. You know, you protect it the same way you would your own child, and there's no turning it off. You know,
Right.
and I do like having that with him at home too, because we're not during the day. We communicate on things, but there's no like real idea sessions because we're busy. You know, so
Right.
I'm not going in his office and just being like, hey, let's like solve this that's like not important right now.
Right.
Like, that doesn't happen. I wait for
Well,
it at home.
I guess sometimes too, I guess you're right. Like, there's times where I go home and I'm venting like throughout my day of like something that was going on, and like Shannon will give me an idea and say, hey, well, you ever thought of like trying X, Y, and Z, right? And Shannon's not in the business, but at the end of the day, like it's been in her life for 16 years,
Yeah.
so she's familiar enough about it and heard me come home bitching, moaning, and complaining, you know, being stressed out. So I think that's where, I guess good ideas can come from that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think that's relationships. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, I look at Jimmy and I, and so many people over the years have been like, man, I don't know how y'all make it work. Because I know that I'm a pain in the ass. Like, I know that. Like, I'm a super aggressive, high intensity, always pushing for more, right? And Jimmy is more of the calm, collect. And I think you and Justin are very similar. Where, like, you're the shove it down your throat push, and he's more the like, all right, let's talk about it.
Yeah,
and like,
give it a minute. Yeah.
like, think through it, you know? And I think
Yeah.
you need that.
Yeah.
If you put two, I'm not going to say that Jimmy and Justin are alphas, because I would say they're alphas for sure. But I think if you put two of those common personalities in a business to operate and run, like, it would crumble.
For sure. And I think that Justin and I, just as you described it, we are different in our personalities. And, you know, on like the personal behavioral tests, he's very analytical, he's data driven, and I'm not. Like, I'm social. I want to like talk to people, see how they're feeling about something, and explain the ideas. And he's just like, this is the idea. Okay, good. Tell me when it's done. And I'm like, hold on. Like, they need to know why we're doing this, and make sure like you ask them how's their workload and what are they doing this weekend. And, you know, there's this other component to people that the analytical mind doesn't have. So we balance each other very well in that.
It's funny you say that, because I think that if I look at, like, obviously Jimmy's a personable guy and he's good with people, but like, I always sometimes say, like, sometimes you can't always be all business. Sometimes it's just about having a like conversation. And I would say in Jimmy and I's relationship, like, he works way harder than I do today. Like, I would be crazy to say that he doesn't. I'm not going to say that we both don't work hard and put effort towards what we're trying to accomplish. I just think that if I put hours on a paper, like, of the time frame, like, his workload's different than mine.
Yeah.
And
I'd say
I
that
probably
we're
would have screwed it
similar.
up. Like,
We're similar,
at
yeah.
my point, like, everybody would quit. From, you know, I want to push, and again, like, I think there's times where you have to push.
For
you
sure.
know, I had a conversation with some directors today about some things, and it was kind of interesting because, like, me and Jimmy talked last night, and like he was like super fired up, and we're talking through it and like come up with a really good game plan on how we're going to message to the team today to like be on the same page to accomplish, you know. So I think communication, which probably, again, for you, it's a little easier. Like you're going home with Justin, y'all are there. There's pillow talk where you can have those conversations. Me and Jimmy Iverson are having pillow talk. So
Sure.
sometimes. So it's. I think that dynamic has a positive too.
It does, yeah. I mean, and there's certainly times that we disagree, but I feel like for the most part we stay pretty aligned. And I really don't know how that happens. I don't know that could happen for everybody, but it just really works for us.
Well, I think a lot of people in business partnerships, and what I recognize, like I've watched a lot of business partnerships go sideways, right? And I think what happens is you end up in this like area where the business starts growing, there's money coming in, some person feels that they're putting in more effort than the other person, or you start this tit for tat.
Yeah, resentment.
Like, and the resentment kicks in, and it's hard to stop that. Like I've watched businesses fall apart where you got people buying people out. And look, I've been there. Like Jimmy and I had another partner before, and another company we tried to start, and it was a two times. The gym, we had a third partner, and on Solutions PBX, we had a third partner, and both times, like it didn't play well. Like three's tough, right? And I think that there was times where like him and I were on the same page, but then that other partner wasn't on that page, and it fell apart, you know?
Yeah.
And I think Jimmy and I have done a good job. Just, I mean, again, we communicate, we stay on the same page. There's days where we're off, for sure. And I think being in peer groups and being able to, I mean, we've both vented about our relationships and our partnerships that make it hard, right?
Yeah. It's been very helpful to be in a peer group where you can talk to other business owners who are going through something similar, because there's certain things that like I couldn't tell Justin about and how I was feeling, and I just needed somebody else's perspective to help me walk through that solution. So that was great.
Sometimes it feels good to give validation, right, on your thoughts and like why you feel a certain way, and just kind of talk through it. And sometimes it feels good to go in and people tell you like you're being ridiculous.
Oh yeah, that's happened too.
Yeah.
I mean, I know we've said that to you, and you guys have said it to me too.
It's part of it, right?
Yeah.
Like I think you're going to go through phases and operating in a partnership where it gets hard, you know. But I think in my opinion, I think there's positives to a partnership too, because you can divide and conquer. Like I've met a lot of business owners that are solo owners that always have struggled to find a number two, right? And like I get it. Like I've watched them say like, man, I wish I had a number two. Like you have Jimmy, like you have somebody that you can really lean into, you know.
Yeah, that's so true, because you trying to find a number, even if you find somebody that's so great, it's still different. They didn't create it with you, and that love and care that you will have for the business, no one will ever have that the same way that you and Jimmy have it. You know, and even I think for me, like maybe at one point I'll need to replace myself as CEO, but the care that I have, that's just like so internal in me, even if I found a rock star, like they're just not going to have it, you know?
You know, and I look at like Ben, you know, our VP of revenue is incredible. Like you would think this is the way he treats it, you know? But at the end of the day, like I also know like he didn't start it from the ground up. So I think does he have those war wounds of like the years of going through it, you know, and the knowledge, like the knowledge just isn't there. And I think that's definitely been a struggle for Jimmy and I as we've scaled, is like all this knowledge is in your head and you have all this information and you know everything about customers and employees and processes, and like putting it on paper is crucial, you know?
Well, and to that point too, it's like because you have all of these things and you have these expectations for the company, you want the company to succeed. And so your desire and your expectations are so high of what you want people to do and how you want them to act and where you want the company to go. And sometimes it feels like you're just constantly trying to pull people along.
That's the emotional part against it, right? Where, one thing that I've learned over the years that really, it took me a really long time to get a grasp on being non-emotional, because I'm a very emotional person and I wear my emotions on my sleeve and I'm very easy to read and things just come out. But
they just come out.
It just comes
Can't
out.
help it.
I shouldn't say it, but I do. But I look at Ben and his non-emotional way of looking at it, and I will say, like, to me, I think that it's done better without that emotion in it. Honestly, like, it's still behind it, right? Like, He's still got me in his ear having conversations, but I think finding those people that you can communicate with and work with, and that's really hard, and I think as you get, today I think we have 140 or 147 full-time employees, so there's a lot going on. There's a lot of different departments, a lot of pieces to the puzzle, but it's hard to control if you're trying to control from that emotional state, right? It's got to be non-emotional, and people are a lot more patient than me and Jimmy have been in the past, which has been a benefit to the business as we've scaled and brought in leadership, and him and I being on the same page from a partnership perspective on what the responsibility of those people are and how they work and how they function.
Yeah.
I would say that's probably our biggest disagreement at times is like, he's telling me I'm being too patient. I'm telling him he's being too patient and waiting for things and going round and round and round. But at the end of the day, like, I look back to the beginning stages of the business, and I'll never forget, in 2010, it was like scary, right? Like, we weren't making any money. Like, we were working, had like families. It was tough. And it was always like, there were days I would come in, I'm like, dude, this is it. I'm done. Like, I'm going to get a job. And he would talk me off the ledge. And then a couple weeks later, it was back to that. So I can't imagine like not having a partner to be able to have that conversation with.
Oh, yeah. know? Somebody trying to do it on their own, I'm grateful that I'm not in that
No, I agree.
position.
Because again, I got some friends that are in that position.
Yeah.
It's tough. Like it's lonely at the top, right? And I think at least in the business partnership, when you're sitting in the owner's box with someone else, you're sharing that risk. And look, obviously in your case, it's one family household, but at the same time, like it's all the same shit, right?
Yeah.
Like it's still sharing the burden and the stress. You're not in it alone.
Yeah. And for those people who are in it alone, I hope that they go find a peer group, because you can't do it alone.
I agree.
You need to have people.
I've had so many people come to me and be like, ask me questions on like, what should I do here? And what do you think here? And I'm like, look, you really need to go find a group of people that you can be around and surround yourself with, so you can be vulnerable and be open and transparent and ask those questions, because that's what's going to help. Like, if I look at from the very beginning, like I've belonged to a peer group now for a long time. I don't know, 10 years, right? And I look at the benefit that it's done for me, being around other people and being vulnerable. And I get it, like in the beginning stages, like you're uncomfortable with people you just meet, and it's like, do you want to be vulnerable? I've always been easy to be vulnerable, because I know that I'm not going to learn.
Yeah.
Like I've had Shannon tell me 1,000 times when I'd be talking to our clients, like asking a big client questions or explaining my problems to them, and she's like, "You sure you can tell them that?" Like, because it's true. But like, if you think about it in business, like everybody has issues, and partnerships create issues, but they also create some benefit to it. And I think it's awesome, and kudos to you and Justin, what y'all have created. Y'all have had ups and downs, really good years, really off years, and like fighting that battle. And I think that can also cause constraints at home. And obviously y'all have a good marriage, and like things are just good, like, and I think that's awesome. So
yeah, it's just a good balance. It's all about finding a balance and like paying attention to the other person. If you like, I can tell if he's overwhelmed with projects, then like I know where to pick up the slack and when to
that's good. So you can
be
see him at
delicate
work.
and not, and he does the same with me. Like if I'm done. Like I can't handle anything
Shannon's
else.
gotten very good at knowing where I am, like, and what's going on in my world, to know like when to
how to respond.
Yeah, like how to operate at home, right, in a different manner. And I think that we all have to understand and have awareness on what's going on in our partners' lives, to have situational awareness, to know when to pick it up. It's the same thing that I've done. Like, obviously Jimmy lost his mom this year, and like I knew he was going through a lot. So trying to pick up slack in his world to help, and there's been times where like him and I have just been at it, right? I mean, you're privy to stand. I mean, again, everything that I'll say here today, he knows. Like, there's no secrets. And there's been times where you have this doubt and uncertainty, and then you always revert back, and it's always nice to hear from other people say like, hey, well, like maybe that's what you need to do, is pick up his slack and where it is, and vice versa, and it does. I see how business partnerships fall apart. Like I do, because I've almost ruined it too,
Yeah.
And I had a coach that was working with me. It's got Kyle Christensen, incredible guy, and Kyle like called me one day and he's like, man, like, you're going to ruin this. Like, you're going to ruin everything you have going right now if you don't stop. And he was right. You know, like I was picking things apart.
Yeah.
And I'm good at that. I'm good at like picking it apart and not letting it go.
Yeah. I pick things like that too, but I don't do it with Justin. I do it with like other people in the company.
Well,
then I start like digging, and then it's just like.
I know we were talking this morning about like just the stressors and like understanding when to push and when to pull, you know? And I think that's a huge dynamic in a business as you're growing it is like, when do you, like I was literally on a call this morning, I'm sitting here talking through it, and I'm just thinking in my head, I'm like, and I said it out loud, like I looked at a bunch of directors, and I was like, I know y'all are tired of hearing me like complain, like, and I've heard the comment, like, nothing's ever enough, right? And I think they're right, you know, because it's not enough. But if I also take a look at like where we are today, if I didn't have that mentality and that mindset, like, would it be here today? Because complacency to me is like, you know, like that's where I go back and forth. And I know me and you were like, it's a struggle trying to like know when to let off the gas a little bit.
Yeah, especially when you see so much potential in people and you know that they're capable of so much more, and then you just see them kind of living in this like mediocrity, and you know what the business needs too, and you also hired them to do this great thing up here, and they're living down here. You have to get them to the level that the company needs,
yes,
and to let them fulfill their potential. I mean, that's what great leaders are for, right? To help people realize their potential.
Yes.
But where's that line? You know, because
how do you not burn them out?
You start pushing people. You know, they can reach burnout, then they become unhappy, and then this person who's potentially a rock star for the company could leave. You know, they could be unhappy, or you are unhappy with them for not ever actually stepping up and doing it, and then you have to let them go. You know, I mean, I've lost a lot of people that were really great in the company because I was pushing and pushing.
Me too.
And
you wonder sometimes, and like this is a personal thing for me, and like it's sometimes hard to say, is like I definitely feel as if there's been times where I'm pushing people in a really uncomfortable way to get them to get to a successful point, and like you can spiral somebody's career out of control and really mess them up. Like I go home sometimes at night and I ask myself, I'm like, man, did I like I watch them on LinkedIn and like they never get a good job after, or they struggle, and it's like, holy shit, did I screw them up?
Yeah.
You know, like you wonder that, right? Because I mean, stress is real, and mental, you know, capacity is a real thing, and I think that's where I've tried really hard over the last 2 years to like ask people, like, what is your mental capacity? Like, how much can you handle? Because I think everybody has a different limit, right? I think one thing about being an entrepreneur, like over the years, is like my capacity from a mental stress standpoint is super high.
Yeah.
Like to me, I feel like I operate better in the chaos, and when everything's like going normal, I'm like a little nervous about what's about to happen, you know. And I think it keeps me on my toes and keeps me operating. But not everybody operates in that function.
We're unique. I operate the same, but not everybody can, and that's why it's so hard for us, because we're so fast and we achieve so much. Like by 9 a.m. we've done more than most people will do in their whole day, and you have that expectation for other people around you. Like, why aren't you getting everything else done? Like, I'm running circles around you, and you just, like, for me, I can't get
I know.
it. You know,
it's really hard to comprehend some days. I think you know, as I've talked to other bigger businesses and asked questions around how do you fix those things and how do you know, I think if you really think about EOS and going back to like right people, right seat, because I think sometimes you have the right person and you may put them in a seat, like, is it their seat though? You know?
Yeah.
Like, is it really their seat? And I also think that as the business scales and gets bigger, like, and Jimmy brought this to my attention, and it's so accurate, like, when you're small, right, and you got like 15 people, like, you're doing a bunch of different stuff, right, in all these different areas. Well, like, sometimes those people are really good at just doing a lot of a little, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're doing all these different pieces.
Yeah.
But then as you get bigger, you start doing a lot, like, of this one small area. and you really start to expose, like, are they really a true A player in the business? Mm-hmm. And I think, look, I'm sure you've struggled with this too, where, like, I've watched over the years with scale, like, people that have been here a really long time, and, like, I struggle some days with, like, why are they not elevated? Like, why did they not go to that role? Mm-hmm. And, like, what, is there something I did wrong? Like, did I not train them? Did I not invest enough time and ability as a leader into them to put them in a place where they're at this level? Or are they just at their capacity and they're okay with that role? Because, again, and I know you're the same way, like, it's hard for me to say, we're just going to do just as good as we did last year. Like, status quo.
Like this. Yeah.
Like, I don't operate in that mindset, you know? And I think that's a big struggle.
But I think it is okay for people to be there, and for them, as long as they recognize, like, where their skill set level is. For me, I've struggled with the people who they should just be there, but they've been with the company so long that they expect to be whatever the next new bigger thing is, and then they've failed, and then they've, we
talked about this in Mexico. Employees that put a certain tenure in time and have these expectations. And I think that's hard, right? Mm-hmm. Like, look, I've struggled with it big time here where, like, I think about Dennis Wing, and I love Dennis. Like, he has got a job forever. And like, I've watched, and what I love about Dennis is he always comes to me. He's like, Shawn, you deserve everything you have. There's not an ounce of bitterness of, like, where I am in my life and where he is in his life. And he knows I'll always take care of him no matter what. And I think about those things and, like, look, I want to make everybody's life better. Like, when I think about people, and, like, I know people come here to put money in their pocket, right? People go to a job to make money, to provide for their families, and somewhat of a purpose, right? That's the purpose. That's the reasoning behind it. Like, I'm not ignorant to the fact that that's not why they're here. And I think sometimes we got to take into consideration as leaders, like, people are human, and you gotta try to find ways to motivate them, and different things motivate different people, And I've one thing that's worked for me, and this is really recent, is, like, when it gets really bad, and, like, things aren't going good, like, I kind of step back and try to push from the front with different messaging, rather than, like, the old Shawn would just, like, come in like Tasmanian devil, rip everybody's head off, and then, like, be wondering why shit's worse, and not, like, fixing. Jimmy's probably had to go behind me a bunch and clean it up, and just trying to take a different approach on, like, the way, you think about sales, right? And sales go up and down, and that's always going to be that way. And I think there's been times in the past where, like, I've really done knee-jerk reactions because of, like, a month where, like, you can't knee-jerk react for a month. Like, it's a trend, right? And Stephen Guidry has really helped me with this over the years because, like, obviously in that business is very volatile and it's up and down, right? Mm-hmm. And you think about the steps in business, and you got this line riding on the back of the stairs that, like, maybe you're just in that area where you're this in between.
Yeah.
And, like, you're not going to tear it apart tomorrow.
Right.
And have it on a positive.
Right.
Now, look, I think there's also a spot where you got to pay attention and know when it's enough, too. Because I've watched business owners, we've had people in our group that not paying attention put you in a different world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And definitely knowing the difference between those two things. But if it's just, like, that pivot moment, it's like, do you keep your foot on the gas still and still stay focused on the long-term goal? When do you, like, kind of ease up a little bit? For us, we've been staying, like, growth focused. Like, I'm living in the future and just trying to, like, carry everybody along with me because I know where I want to go. But, like, making them feel at ease in those moments where it's like, okay, guys, like, this month was not great. Like, let's all be honest. But we're still all working towards the same thing.
I think that's where the transparency comes into play.
Yeah.
And, like, being extremely transparent with the team that you're working with and saying, hey, look, here's where we are today. Here's where we're trying to go. Like, but we have to pull these levers. Mm-hmm. Like, and we have to see constant change for the better. Yeah. Like, and we can't revert. Because it's real easy, in my opinion, in business for things to revert. Just like people. Like, it's real easy for people to revert back into those behaviors, right? And I think you have to create those habits and that muscle memory. But I also think you have to get the buy-in. And I've watched leaders, and it's really interesting today, like, as I sit on the outside a lot, and I'm watching what's happening in departments with different directors and VPs, and I'm like, hold on, you need to, like, pull back the reins some. And they're looking at me like, what? what did he just say? Like, he's saying pull back the reins, you know, because I'm used to the one like just slamming shit, you know. But I think you have to know when, right, and when to pull back. And I think you have to get the buy-in of people to like want to work with you, because I think that you can have a negative effect of pressing hard where people shut down, and then now you're doing more harm than good, because now that shining star is burning out.
Yeah.
Because they know, I mean, if they're a rock star, like, they know when it's good.
Yeah.
Like, and they know when it's bad. Like, they're not, we hired them for a reason. Like, they're smart people.
Yeah.
Like, they know. They're not ignorant to the facts. So I think we have to understand that and know when to ease up and down. You know? But again, I do agree you have to be very cognizant of what's happening around you in the present.
Yeah.
You know, and make adjustments if need be. That's where, at least for me, like, that's a really tough place to be as an entrepreneur, is like making those really hard decisions of like, is this working?
Yeah.
Or is this not?
Yeah. And people don't get it. Like, people don't understand unless they're also an entrepreneur themselves and they're like in a business running it. And most employees don't get it. Other people, they don't see that struggle of that in between, because it's a scary place to be. And you're making really important decisions that could make or break your company. And
it's terrifying.
That's a lot of weight to carry.
No,
but
it
people
is.
they don't see that.
No.
You know.
No, they don't know what it's like to make payroll. I'll just tell everybody that. If you just got to know what it's like to make payroll, it's different. And I think you know, and it's definitely a balance, you know, and challenging to not bring home at times, challenging to not bring home into work when you're stressed, and then you add additional stressors on top of it that, you know, I think you just got to be willing to get kicked in the face every day and be okay with it, you know. And I think, you know, it was interesting. Shannon was telling me the other day, she's like, you know, sometimes like life is so hard. And I was like, yeah, but we're getting stronger. Like, and I don't think life gets easier in my perspective. And even looking at, like, I've had so many people look at it, and I thought even at the time, like, I grew up very poor and thinking like, man, like, if I just had money, life would be so much easier. Like, all this shit goes away.
Yeah.
And like, that's not really true, right? Yeah. It is true to an extent, right? Does make life a lot easier from that perspective, but it also adds other constraints and challenges, like the weight of people and the responsibility you have.
What is it you always say? Like, being broke's hard and being rich is hard.
Being broke's a bitch and being rich is a bitch. Like, pick your bitch.
Yes.
Because if you think about it, like, those aspects of things, there's responsibility. And I think that's what so many young entrepreneurs don't understand today. And then I try to, like, drill in, is like, be careful what you wish for. Like, I'll have a lot of these people at these conferences, but man, I want to make my company as big as yours. And I'm like, you sure? Like, you sure about that? Like, because it's a different level of stress, right? It's all hard. Like, whether if you're a 4-man company or a 400-man company, like, it's all hard. But I do think that the bigger it gets, like, the more challenging it is from an operator. At least for me, it has been. Like, I've had to level up myself every year, because every year has been different for me, you know.
Well, we've talked about, too, in our Vistage group, because we have some companies in there that are really big. And they have said before that it's easier after a certain point because you have more money to bring in, like, really good A players into some positions. I haven't experienced that yet.
I would agree, but I would also say finding those A players and really understanding what you want from them can also create other challenges too, where, like, are you setting the right expectations for that person? Are you giving them enough time to succeed in their role and what they're doing? Because I think it's true, but I still think it's hard in a sense that, especially for me as an operator, like, you're letting go of some control too. And that's tough at times.
Yeah.
Like, where you just got to let people flourish. You got to let people fail. It's like, I mean, raising a child, right? You got to let them fall down and, like, help them back up. And I think that's creates other challenges, you know. And I think, you know, going back to that, when you really think about what we do as leaders of a company, is you're hiring really smart people that are smarter than you, and you got to fix the problems that they can't fix.
Yeah.
So, like, that's when it gets real hard, when they're coming at you and saying, like, hey, I got X, Y, and Z going on, and you're like, Like, that's when it's like, you got, in my opinion, I think you just got to gunsling a little bit and be okay to make a bad decision, and know that like you're gonna do things wrong, and they're gonna fail, and be really okay with it.
Yeah, it's tough to be okay with letting other people fail within your company.
Yes. Well,
yeah, it's gonna happen. I mean,
and it's financially impacting to you as an individual.
Yeah.
And that's where it's really hard to pull emotions out of it, right? You start looking at these mistakes, and like as it gets bigger, it's 50,000, 100,000, like it's all these things that make it really, really tough, and that make it a lot of stress mentally, because like I would have never thought I'd been in this position today, right? Like it wasn't in my, I guess it wasn't in my future, in my mind as a young guy, that like I'm going to own this successful company one day, and obviously as I started doing it and I fell in love with the journey and understanding what to do, like I realized like I got very confident in myself. But I think we both, and me and you have talked about this, about sometimes you do feel like you have like this imposter syndrome, and like, are you prepared to do that? You know, are you prepared to operate it?
Yeah, I mean, I'll operate usually with confidence in like my decisions and those things, but there's definitely moments when it's like I feel like I'm not making the right decision, and I'm like, do I need somebody else to come in here? Or can't, like,
because it happens.
That happens, yeah.
Like you're gonna make the wrong decisions, and those things are gonna come up and happen, and it makes it really challenging. Well, look, I look at it like this. I think you're doing an incredible job with your business. I've always like been envious of that business because I like cars, and it's exciting for me to see what y'all have going on. Yeah. I think that you and Justin have built something really special, and like just seeing the people that work for you. And understanding that they love their job and they love where they want to be, keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Trying.
And it's exciting.
It is a fun industry. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. It is. Well, look, and it's fun what you're doing too. Yeah. Like, so think about the people you're impacting and the lives you're impacting, and whether if you're selling cups or IT services or headlights, right? Like there are all big impacts to what you do and how you change the world.
Yeah.
So
I appreciate that.
I think that, again, I respect y'all and the fact that y'all been able to make that work and that dynamic. Because I ask myself some days, like, if that was me and Shannon, like, this, it probably blew up. Like, her and I are like, would be at it, And honestly, like, I truly believe that, like, she's a lot less emotional than me, and she's super smart and could probably have done the operational function for sure, and put that together and kept it together a lot better than I obviously would have.
Yeah. You'll never know.
No, never know. No, we don't even do that.
Like, no.
No way. But look, I really appreciate you coming out today. I think there was some good stuff that we put out, and I think the listeners will really appreciate the understanding of what it's like to operate a business with their partner. I don't know if there's anything that you want to kind of close out with. How do people find you? If they want to ask you questions, I'm sure there's female CEOs out there that like are running their business and they have questions and they want to lean in. And I know you like to help.
I love being a part of different women's groups, and so anybody can reach out to me. My contact info is on our website, which is oraclelights.com. Okay, awesome. So happy to connect there. Awesome. And thank you for having me. I always love talking business with you.
I know.
I mean, that's all we do. Anytime we're together, we're just like.
We did it in Mexico the whole time. So again, thank you for coming today, and I really appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks, John.